The email sent with a single, trembling click. My heart stopped as the screen flashed "Message sent," and in that split second, I realized I'd attached the wrong file. Not my history essay, but a raw, aching love letter meant for someone who could never know. By the time I scrambled to recall it, Professor Callahan's curt reply pinged. "Interesting submission, Ethan. See me after class." My name is Ethan Carter, a junior at Willow Creek College, a small liberal arts school nestled in the rolling hills of Vermont. I'm not the kind of guy who makes waves. Quiet, bookish, the one you'd find buried in a library corner with a dog-eared copy of Whitman. But that fall semester, my carefully ordered world unraveled, all because of a boy named Julian Reyes. It started in late September, the air crisp with the promise of change. Willow Creek's campus buzzed with students rushing to classes, their laughter mingling with the rustle of leaves. I was late to History 301, my laptop balanced precariously on one arm as I jogged across the quad. That's when I saw him. Julian, leaning against the oak outside the lecture hall, his dark hair catching the sunlight like a halo. He was new, a transfer student with a reputation that preceded him. Charming, fearless, and openly gay in a way that made my chest tighten with both envy and longing. I wasn't out. Not to my friends, not to my family, and certainly not to myself in any way that felt safe. Growing up in a small, conservative town in Ohio, I'd learned to bury those feelings deep, to smile through the sermons and nod at the traditional family values talks. But Julian was different. He wore his truth like armor, his leather jacket and easy grin a quiet rebellion against the world's expectations. I couldn't stop watching him, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed, the way he argued passionately in class about civil rights and justice. That day, I slipped into the lecture hall, my face burning as I took a seat in the back. Professor Callahan, a stern man with wire-rimmed glasses and a penchant for cold calling, was already scribbling on the board. "Mr. Carter," he said without turning, "glad you could join us. Perhaps you can summarize last week's reading on the Stonewall riots?" I stammered through a half-coherent answer, my mind stuck on Julian, who was sitting 3 rows ahead, his head tilted as if he could feel my stare. After class, I lingered, pretending to organize my notes, hoping for a chance to say something, anything, to him. But he was gone before I could muster the courage. That night, alone in my dorm, I did something reckless. I wrote a letter. Not an email, not a text, but a sprawling, handwritten confession poured onto the screen in a haze of sleepless emotion. "Julian, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a fool, but you're the first person who's ever made me feel like I could be honest. Like I could be me." The words flowed, raw and unfiltered, detailing every fleeting glance, every moment I'd caught myself dreaming of him. It was meant for my journal, a secret I'd never share. But in my exhaustion, I saved it as history__final.docs and sent it to Callahan. The next morning, panic hit like a freight train. I sprinted to the history department, my sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. Callahan's office was tucked in a corner of the old brick building, the door slightly ajar. I knocked, my heart hammering. "Come in," he called, his voice neutral but sharp. "Professor, I sent the wrong file," I blurted, gripping the doorframe. "It was a mistake. Can I resend the essay?" He leaned back in his chair, his eyes scanning me over his glasses. The letter was illuminating, Ethan. Not the assignment, but it took courage to write. I assume it wasn't meant for me. My throat closed. "No, sir. It wasn't." He nodded, his expression softening just a fraction. "I've deleted it. But you should know, this campus is a place where you can be honest. Not everyone will understand, but some will." He slid a USB drive across the desk. "Your essay, I presume?" I nodded, mute, and handed him the correct file. As I left, his words echoed in my head. A place where you can be honest. But honesty felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Not when my parents called every Sunday to ask about my future wife. Not when my roommate tossed around slurs like they were punchlines. The rest of the week was a blur of shame and adrenaline. I avoided Julian, ducking into stairwells when I saw him in the quad, but his presence was inescapable. He was everywhere, debating in class, laughing with friends at the campus coffee shop, his voice a low hum that sent shivers down my spine. I hated how much I wanted to talk to him, how much I wanted to be like him. By Friday, I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to clear my head. The campus library, with its towering shelves and quiet corners, had always been my refuge. I was halfway through a chapter on the lavender scare when someone slid into the chair across from me. Julian. His leather jacket was slung over the back, and he was holding a dog-eared copy of Giovanni's Room. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice warm but teasing. "You look like you're hiding from the world." I froze, my pen hovering over my notebook. "Just studying," I managed, my voice barely above a whisper. He leaned forward, his dark eyes searching mine. "You sure? You've been dodging me all week. Did I do something?" "No," I said too quickly, my face heating up. "It's not you. It's complicated." He grinned, undeterred. "Complicated's my specialty. Want to talk about it?" I wanted to. God, I wanted to spill everything. The letter, the fear, the way he made my heart race. But the words caught in my throat, tangled in years of silence. Instead, I shook my head. Maybe another time. He didn't push, but he left his number scrawled on a scrap of paper. "When you're ready, Ethan," he said, and walked away, leaving me staring at the digits like they were a lifeline. That night, I couldn't sleep. The letter was gone, deleted by Callahan, but its words haunted me. I'd written things I'd never dared say aloud, about wanting to be seen, to be loved, to be free. And Julian, with his easy confidence, seemed to embody that freedom. I typed out a text, deleted it, typed it again. Finally, at 2 a.m., I hit send. "Hey, it's Ethan. Coffee tomorrow?" His reply came instantly. "Thought you'd never ask." 10 a.m., Java Junction. The next morning, I arrived at the coffee shop early, my palms sweaty as I clutched a latte. Julian strolled in, all easy grace, and slid into the booth across from me. "So," he said, stirring sugar into his coffee. "What's the deal, Ethan? You're like a mystery wrapped in a riddle." I laughed, nervous. "I'm not that interesting." "Bullshit," he said, his grin softening the word. "You're the guy who writes 10-page essays on queer history but clams up when I say hi. That's interesting." My stomach twisted. He'd noticed me in class, noticed my passion for the subject. I took a sip of coffee to buy time. "I just don't talk much. Small-town habits." He nodded, his expression serious. "I get it. I grew up in Miami, but my family wasn't exactly waving rainbow flags. Took me a while to figure out who I was." "How did you do it?" I asked, the question slipping out before I could stop it. "Be so open." He leaned back, thoughtful. "It's not easy. People judge, people leave. But hiding who you are? That's worse. You start losing pieces of yourself." His words hit like a punch. I wanted to tell him about the letter, about the fear that kept me up at night, but instead, I changed the subject. We talked for hours, about books, music, the way Vermont's hills felt like a secret kept from the world. By the time we parted, I felt lighter, like I'd taken a step towards something I couldn't yet name. The weeks that followed were a dance of closeness and caution. Julian and I started meeting regularly. Coffee turned into study sessions, then late-night walks across campus. He was magnetic, his stories of growing up in a loud, chaotic household a stark contrast to my quiet, rigid upbringing. He talked about his first crush, a boy in high school who broke his heart, and I listened, hanging on every word, too scared to share my own. But the letter still loomed. Every time I was with Julian, I wondered if Callahan had truly deleted it, if someone else might find it. The fear was irrational, but it gnawed at me. One night, as we sat on a bench overlooking the frozen lake, Julian nudged my shoulder. "You're doing it again," he said. "That thing where you go quiet and look like you're carrying the world." I forced a smile. "Just thinking." "About what?" His voice was gentle, but his eyes were sharp, like he could see through me. I took a deep breath, the cold air stinging my lungs. "About being honest. About what it costs." He didn't say anything for a moment, just looked at me, his breath visible in the frosty air. Then he reached out, his hand brushing mine. "Whatever it is, Ethan, you don't have to carry it alone." I pulled away, not because I wanted to, but because the touch felt too real, too dangerous. "I should go," I muttered, standing abruptly. He didn't stop me, but his gaze followed me all the way back to my dorm. The next day, I threw myself into my studies, trying to drown out the ache. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. In history class, Callahan announced a group project on marginalized voices in the 20th century. He paired me with Julian. "You two seem to have a knack for this topic," he said, his eyes twinkling with something I couldn't quite read. Working with Julian was torture and bliss. We spent hours in the library, poring over books on the AIDS crisis and the fight for marriage equality. He'd lean close, pointing out a passage, and I'd catch the faint scent of his cologne, my heart racing. One night, as we worked late, he looked up from his laptop. "Why do you care so much about this stuff, Ethan? It's more than just grades for you." I hesitated, then spoke softly. "Because it feels like it's my history, too, even if I'm not ready to claim it." His eyes softened, and for a moment, I thought he might say something profound. Instead, he just nodded. "When you're ready, I'll be here." Winter settled over Willow Creek, blanketing the campus in snow. Julian and I grew closer, our project an excuse to spend every spare moment together. But the closer we got, the more my fear grew. I was falling for him, hard, and every touch, every laugh, felt like a step toward a cliff. One night, we were in his dorm, sprawled on the floor with books and empty coffee cups scattered around. He was reading aloud from a memoir about the Stonewall riots, his voice steady and passionate. I watched him, mesmerized, until he caught me staring. "What?" he asked, grinning. "Nothing," I said too quickly. "Just you're good at this." He set the book down, his expression turning serious. "Ethan, what's holding you back? I see the way you look at me. I feel it too. But you keep running." My chest tightened. "It's not that simple. My family, they wouldn't understand. And I don't even know if I understand." He moved closer, his knee brushing mine. "You don't have to have it all figured out. But you don't have to hide, either." I wanted to kiss him. The urge was overwhelming, but fear won out. I stood, grabbing my coat. "I need to go." "Ethan," he started, but I was already out the door, the cold air hitting me like a slap. The next morning, I found an email from Callahan. "Your group project is exceptional so far. I'd like you and Julian to present it at the department symposium next month." The symposium was a big deal, attended by faculty, students, and alumni. The thought of standing in front of a crowd, talking about queer history with Julian at my side, was both thrilling and terrifying. I met Julian at the coffee shop to tell him. He was ecstatic, his eyes lighting up. "This is huge, Ethan. We're going to kill it." But as the symposium approached, my anxiety spiked. I started noticing whispers in the halls, sidelong glances from classmates. Had someone seen the letter? Had Callahan let something slip? The paranoia was suffocating, and I started pulling away from Julian again, canceling study sessions, ignoring his texts. One night, he cornered me outside the library. "What's going on, Ethan? You're ghosting me, and I deserve to know why." "I'm just busy," I lied, avoiding his gaze. "Bullshit," he said, stepping closer. "If you don't want us, just say it. But don't lie to me." I wanted to tell him everything, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I walked away, leaving him standing in the snow. The symposium was a week away, and I was a wreck. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every time I saw Julian in class, my chest ached with guilt. He'd stopped trying to talk to me, his eyes guarded when they met mine. I'd pushed him away, and I hated myself for it. The night before the presentation, I was in the library, rehearsing my part alone. The words felt hollow without Julian's energy to balance them. I was about to leave when Professor Callahan appeared, his coat dusted with snow. "Ethan," he said, his voice gentle. "I've noticed you've been distracted. Is everything all right?" I shook my head, the weight of everything crashing down. "I messed up, Professor. With Julian. With everything." He sat across from me, his expression kind. "Love is messy, Ethan, but it's also brave. You wrote that letter because you felt something real. Don't let fear take that away." His words broke something in me. I told him everything. About my family, my fear, the way Julian made me feel alive and terrified all at once. Callahan listened, then said, "You're not alone in this. And you're stronger than you think." I left the library with a flicker of hope. The next morning, I found Julian outside the symposium hall, pacing nervously. He looked up as I approached, his expression unreadable. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice shaking. "I was scared. I still am. But I don't want to lose you." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, let's do this presentation. We'll figure the rest out later." The symposium was a blur. We stood side by side, our voices weaving together as we told the stories of those who'd fought for their truth. The audience was rapt, their applause thunderous. For the first time, I felt proud, not just of our work, but of who I was becoming. After the symposium, Julian and I walked to the lake, the campus quiet under a fresh layer of snow. We didn't speak at first, just stood side by side, our breaths mingling in the cold air. "I read your letter," Julian said suddenly, his voice low. "Not the one you sent to Callahan. The one you didn't mean to show me." My heart stopped. "What?" "Last week, in the library. Your laptop was open, and I saw it. I wasn't trying to snoop, but I saw my name, and I couldn't stop reading. I felt exposed, raw, like every secret I'd ever kept was laid bare. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because you weren't ready," he said simply. "But I'm glad I know. Because I feel it, too, Ethan. I've felt it since the first day I saw you." He stepped closer, his hand finding mine. This time, I didn't pull away. His touch was warm, grounding, and for the first time, I let myself believe I could have this, have him. We kissed by the lake, the world fading to nothing but the softness of his lips and the snow falling around us. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and that was enough. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind. We navigated our new relationship in secret, stealing moments between classes and late-night talks. But the fear didn't vanish. My parents were coming for spring break, and I knew I couldn't keep hiding forever. One night, as we lay in Julian's dorm, his head on my chest, I told him about my family. "They'll never accept this," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "They'll cut me off, disown me." He squeezed my hand. "You don't have to tell them now. But when you do, I'll be there. You're not alone, Ethan." Spring break arrived, and with it my parents. They drove up from Ohio, their SUV packed with expectations I could never meet. We met at a diner off campus, the kind with checkered floors and too strong coffee. They asked about my classes, my plans, my future wife. I smiled, nodded, and hated myself for it. That night, I called Julian, my voice shaking. "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying." "Then don't," he said. "Tell them. Or don't. But be who you are, Ethan. You deserve that." The next day, I took my parents to the lake, the same spot where Julian and I had kissed. My hands trembled as I spoke. "Mom, Dad, there's something I need to tell you. I'm gay, and I'm in love with someone." The silence was deafening. My mother's face crumpled, and my father's jaw tightened. "This isn't what we raised you to be," he said, his voice cold. My mother didn't speak, just stared at the ground. I expected it to hurt, and it did. But it also felt like freedom. For the first time, I wasn't hiding. I wasn't pretending. I was me. They left without saying much, their disappointment a weight I'd carry for years. But when I walked back to campus, Julian was waiting, his arms open. "You did it," he said, pulling me close. "I'm so proud of you." The semester ended, and Julian and I grew stronger, our love a quiet defiance against the world's judgment. Professor Callahan wrote me a recommendation for a summer internship with a queer history archive, his way of saying he believed in me. I wasn't sure what the future held, reconciliation with my family, or more battles to fight, but I knew I wasn't alone. As we stood in the quad, the spring sun warming our faces, Julian took my hand. "We're gonna be okay, you know," he said, his grin infectious. I smiled back, my heart full. "Yeah, we are." And in that moment, I knew it was true. I'd sent the wrong homework, the wrong letter, but it had led me to the right person and to myself.